Hey guys, Titan Goji here, and I recently watched Shin Godzilla several times in theaters, and today I'll be going over some Easter eggs, references, and just whatever, just for fun. And yeah, here we go. Let's start things off. Shin Godzilla is the largest Godzilla by far, standing at 118.5 meters tall, in which legendary Godzilla stood at 108 meters tall, which is the second largest. Now, the word Shin has three meanings, which are true, new, and God. This Godzilla is entirely digital with motion capture. He also glows purple like the armor titan from Attack on Titan, a movie directed by Shinji Higuchi. The song Decisive Battle from Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is an animated series directed by Hideki Anno, does play throughout the film more than once, in fact in many different versions, and the song is composed by Shiro Sugisu, who does the score for not only Evangelion, but also Shin Godzilla. Speaking of reused tracks, many of Akira Ifukube's music from other Godzilla films are included, which does include the original Godzilla theme song. Godzilla even retains his classic iconic roar, as well as his original from 1954, plus many other sound effects from the series are included. One example would be his atomic breath. Also, Wako Clock Tower does get destroyed, like in 1954. There is a character named Goro Maki, who is also a character in Return of Godzilla and Son of Godzilla. One of the plans to stop Godzilla is named the Yashiori Plan, which in a legend, Yashiori is a hero who would put a Hydra to sleep. Shin Godzilla does draw parallels to the 3/11 incident, where a tsunami, earthquake, and radiation leak struck Japan, which severely, really hurt the country. There's this one moment where a character says that a certain part of Japan will be flooded, and one of the politicians responds with, "Not again." Now we'll be moving on to spoilers. Unless you want the movie ruined for you, click away now. The opening sequence is very reminiscent of the first Godzilla film, where Godzilla's footsteps and a roar are heard during the title, then it cuts to a boat that's later destroyed. In fact, the original 1954 Godzilla film, Return of Godzilla, and Shin Godzilla all start with a boat in the ocean and ends with Godzilla being incapacitated. Godzilla receives his name from an ancient Odo Island legend, meaning incarnation of God, hence the use of Shin in the title. Godzilla is given the nickname Gulf at one point, which stands for Giant Unidentified Life Form, which is possibly a nod to the Mutos in Godzilla 2014, which stands for a massive unidentified terrestrial organism. Godzilla's atomic breath is very reminiscent of oxyacetylene torch. This Godzilla film is essentially a remake of Return of Godzilla more than Godzilla 1954. Godzilla does appear, then he leaves for a bit, and he even falls asleep during the film. There's also a mix of Godzilla vs. Destroya with a subplot that revolves around evolution, except Godzilla is the one who's evolving because he's the only monster in the film. And Godzilla is also glowing, kind of like Burning Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Destroya. There's even a part where someone questions if Godzilla will be able to grow wings and fly, which is possibly a nod to Destroya, who does evolve and later grows wings. There's even a plan where the idea is to freeze Godzilla, much like in Godzilla vs. Destroya. When you first see Godzilla hidden in Tokyo Bay, the water starts turning red like an end of Evangelion. Back to the 3/11 incident, Godzilla is basically the embodiment of the disaster that occurred in 2013. When we first see Godzilla, there's not really much of a tsunami, but there is flooding involved. And then he later starts tearing through Japan, which is pretty reminiscent of an earthquake. And then he starts to give off, a bunch of radiation from his body, contaminating the areas he's around. When Godzilla evolves into his third form, the film starts to become very reminiscent of the original 1954 Godzilla film. One example would be how the cinematography is used. And at the end of the film, there are organisms at the end of Godzilla's tail, which is possibly some pretty deep symbolism. My guess is that it represents that humanity must coexist with Godzilla. That's all I have for today. Feel free to comment anything I missed or anything you want to add. Hope you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you next time where I compare Shin Godzilla to Godzilla 2014. So stay tuned for that.